In today's process video, we'll be making DIY Christmas decorations that you can do in just one day. It doesn't really matter what shape molds you have. You can really just turn anything into a Christmas decoration with Christmas colors, and I'll show you that here today. Once you're all set up, go ahead and mix up your resin and then divvy it out into your different cups to add colors. For this project, I broke out my alcohol inks and mica powders. Once you've added all of your colors, just make sure to mix them thoroughly before pouring them into your molds. The way we can make these all in one day is that we're just going to pour each individual color right on top of one another without letting it cure in between layers. I love using this method because when the colors lay on top of one another, it creates more of a tie-dye effect rather than a definite line in between each color. When pouring your very first layer into a mold that has a point on the end, make sure that there is no air bubble at the tip. That will usually happen, so keep a toothpick handy and just work the resin into the tip. Also, it really doesn't matter if you pour a layer of the mica powder resin on top of the alcohol ink resin, or vice versa. It all gives really cool effects. Since, of course, I decided to make so many pieces, you might end up having to do 2 different rounds of resin. So in this next round that I mixed up, I just used some additional Christmas colors and added a little gold, added a little blue sparkle. They're all really going to turn out really nice, I can already tell. So with this last round of colored resin, just make sure to fill up the rest of your molds that still have space in it, and then you're done with the pouring. After you're done with this portion, just make sure to sit with your molds for a minute, kind of wiggle them around, squeeze them a little bit, just to make sure any air bubbles come up to the surface. Then you'll want to very carefully hit it with your artist torch, get those bubbles out, then you can let it sit and cure overnight. Now that you've let your resin pieces cure, you can finally pop them out of their molds. And look at how nice they turned out. They're all so festive, and they're all going to look so great. There is something I do want to clue you in on in projects like this where you pour resin on top of one another, especially when there's additives involved. What will happen here is that when the resin is curing, it does create an exothermic reaction, and sometimes this happens a little too quickly. So it does tend to make your resin stick to your silicone mold sometimes. But that's okay. Do not panic. I have a trick for it. If this issue does arise, just get out your heat gun and gently blow the hot air onto the outside of your silicone mold. That will soften up the resin and let it release from your silicone mold. This process does get hot, so be careful and try to not burn your fingers. Once you've popped out all of your pieces successfully, you'll want to just do the final step of cleaning them up. Just gently sand off those sharp edges that are on the bottom of your pieces. In this step, you'll just want to be very careful of the resin dust. So I always like to keep my little dust buster handy so I can just suck up all that resin dust right up off my sandpaper. And there you have it. If yesterday you had no Christmas decorations, today you have an entire mantle full. To find out more about this project, scroll down to the description for a link to the detailed guide. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And happy holidays, everybody, from me and everybody at Art and Glow.